Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Infinitum, exceso de velocidad.
De nueva cuenta, muy buenas tardes a todos. Sean todos bienvenidos a nuestra segunda etapa de esta 11ª edición del Coloquio Internacional de Astronomía, Universo y Sociedad, que en esta ocasión lleva el tema La revolución de los 90s en la astronomía, las nuevas fronteras del cosmos. Y vamos a dar inicio en esta sesión con la conferencia magistral El papel de la radiación cósmica en el seguimiento de la vida, a cargo de la doctora Noemí Globus. Voy a darles una reseña. Noemí Globus es astrofísica del Instituto Cabil y futura profesora en la UNAM. Lidera investigaciones interdisciplinarias sobre la radiación cósmica y el surgimiento de la vida, explorando el fenómeno de la homochiralidad molecular. También trabaja en astrofísica teórica de altas energías y el origen de rayos cósmicos de ultra altas energías. Su enfoque integra biología, química, física, para poder entender los procesos únicos en el universo. Sin más, vamos a darle la bienvenida a nuestro... Sí, cierto.
Hey, can you
Ella
hear
la
me?
vamos a tener en línea. De todas maneras, les pido un fuerte aplauso para ella. Ahorita mismo se va a conectar.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Allô? Can you hear me?
Sí, sí se escucha. Yes.
Allô? But it looks like you cannot hear me. Ah. Okay, so should I wait?
Yes, please.
Buenas tardes a todos. Una disculpa, tenemos problemas técnicos. Se había solucionado hace una hora, pero bueno, siempre hay un problema. Y les comento acerca de la doctora Globus. Ella iba a estar con nosotros, pero por problemas también algo complicados no puede estar. La tenemos ahí en la pantalla, pero no se puede pasar a esta pantalla, ¿no? Y está ahí. Esperemos que se solucione. Hace una hora funcionaba, pero siempre de última hora pasan cosas. Agradezco mucho su paciencia. Un momentito.
I guess that means you can hear me. Okay, and can you see my... you need to allow me to share my screen. I cannot share my screen. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay, it's working. Well, thank you very much. And I'm very, very sorry not to be able to be there with you. So I would like to thank again the organizer to allow me to give this talk online. And I don't know how it will work, but I don't mind to be interrupted. So if you have questions, you can stop me at any time, and I will be happy to answer them. Okay, so my slide, I try to make them in Spanish, but I'm going to talk in English, and I'm going to tell you about the role of cosmic rays in the evolution and origin of life. I mean, what we know about it, because of course we don't know much. Okay, so the first question is, what are cosmic rays? So you see you have, let me just do something. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay, so do you see my laser now? I guess yes. So what are cosmic rays? So you see you have here the Earth, and you have here cosmic rays. So this is an illustration, is not a true photography, but this is an illustration of cosmic radiation interacting with the atmosphere. And one important thing is that cosmic rays are not rays. They were called like this because when they were discovered, we ignored what they were, we ignored their nature, but they are not light, so they should not be called rays, but the name stayed. So cosmic rays are particles. And the low energy ones come from the solar wind, so they come from the sun, which is continuously emitting what we call the solar wind, which is basically charged particles. And this was predicted in 1958 by Eugene Parker. And it took 4 years for the astrophysical community to actually so when he first told about this idea, no one was believing that the sun was emitting a wind. So in 1962, the mission Mariner 2 actually was sent and demonstrated that it was really a wind of particles. So it took 4 years to the astrophysical community to admit it. Okay, so that's the introduction to the solar wind. And this charged particle, when they travel and they interact with the magnetosphere of our planet, they are like little painters that they are responsible for aurorae. So this is a simulation, not a simulation, but an image of aurora. And here is a simulation of what happened when the solar wind will interact with the Earth magnetosphere. So you have here the Earth, you have here the day and the night, right? And this is the magnetic field. And here you have the magnetic field lines coming from the sun and interacting with the magnetosphere of the Earth, and they are reconnecting. So you have aurorae as well at the day side and at the north side. So I can maybe show that again. Oops. So when you have a solar storm, for example, so the solar wind is traveling at faster velocity and it's entraining this charged particle, and this magnetic field lines will then reconnect. So you can see this again. And then the particle will be channeled by these field lines toward the polar region of the Earth. Okay, so you have here a photo. So this is the aurora. You can see it in green here. And these colors would be different in different altitudes of the atmosphere. So what exactly happens? So when a cosmic ray, so again, this is a charged particle, hit the atmosphere, it's going to excite the atoms in the atmosphere. So this is an atom figured here. So the nucleus, right, with the neutrons and the proton, and here you have the electrons, which are on different levels of energy around the atom. And then you have the cosmic rays that's going to transfer energy to the atom, and it's going to actually shuffle the electrons around it, right, because it's transmitting energy. So because of this, some of these electrons will jump on higher energy orbits. We are actually saying that the atom is excited. And when it will desexcite, it's going to emit light. So it's going to emit photons. And since we have oxygen and nitrogen, this different energy level will emit photons at different wavelength. This corresponds to the energy of the atomic level. And so this is going to actually give you these different colors that you can see here. So red will be mostly nitrogen, and red, purple, and then you will have this most orange, which would be oxygen, and depending on the altitude, you can have also green. So that's for the low energy cosmic rays. So that was a little introduction. Cosmic rays exist at a very large range of different energies. So again, the low energy ones come from the sun. But as you go to higher and higher energies, some of cosmic rays come from actually unknown sources. So one of the big questions in high energy astrophysics is to actually understand what are the sources of the most energetic cosmic rays we observe. And since at higher energy, they can penetrate more easily the Earth magnetosphere, they're actually going to interact directly and create what we call showers, as you can see here, of secondary particles. And at the highest energy, we observe cosmic rays. So at this energy, they can actually produce over 100 billion of particles in the atmosphere. So just to give you an order of an idea of what are these energies, it's 100 times more than we can actually make at the LHC, the Large Hadronic Collider. So this is why, since we cannot reproduce such energies in human-made accelerators, we have to extrapolate the physics. So both the sources and the physics of these interactions of cosmic rays with the atom of the atmosphere are not so well known. So it's a mystery. And so also the flux is very low at this high energy. So at low energies, we get cosmic ray from the sun, so the flux is very high. And then as you go to higher and higher energy, the most energetic particles are rarer and rarer. So, but yeah, okay. So that was the introduction to cosmic ray. And please again stop me if you have questions. So basically, what happened is illustrated by this a nice cartoon I found on the internet. So we actually really call this air showers. because so again, when a primary cosmic ray interact, it's going to create a shower of secondary particles, and you have a lot of particles that are created. So many of them you don't actually see in normal matter. So for example, if you take a table or a chair or yourself, you have atoms that are made mostly of protons, neutrons, electrons. But in the shower, because you actually, so masses, so you have very energetic particles, and there is an equivalence, right, between mass and energy, so you can create a lot of new particles, and these particles have a very short lifetime. For example, you have the pions, so the charged pions have a lifetime of a nanosecond, which is 10 to the minus 9 seconds, and you have the muons that are 2 microseconds lifetime, so it's microseconds, right? It's 10 to the minus 6. So they don't live very long. But since they travel very fast, they can reach us. So that's so the question is, right, what are the dominant particles at ground level? Because we live at ground level. Of course, when we take a plane, we go higher in altitude. So maybe we are going to be hit by a particle of different nature. And this is what I'm going to explain right now. So this is again an illustration of what happened when a cosmic ray hit the atmosphere. So this is the primary cosmic ray. And then it creates a shower of secondary particles. So as an example here, you have pions, which are designated by this letter pi. And here you have fragments of the initial nucleus. And then the pions can either give you electrons and photons if they are neutral, or they can decay into muons. And on Earth, at ground level, it's the muons that are dominating. So 85% of our radiation dose, of our cosmic radiation dose, are actually muons. And if you go on the top of a mountain, or if you take a plane, then you will mostly be irradiated by the electromagnetic part of the shower, which are electrons, positrons, photons. But if we are here at sea level, then it's going to be muons that we should care about. So muons are elementary particles. They are like heavy electrons, basically. Their mass is 200 times roughly the mass of an electron. And again, I mean, I'm repeating myself, but that's important. So they are unstable. So they are going to decay very rapidly, and their lifetime is 2.2 microseconds, so 10 to the minus 6 seconds. Okay, so this is just to show you the vertical intensity. So basically, it's the number of particles you're getting as a function of atmospheric depth or altitude equivalently. So what's important here is that you can see at the ground level, you are dominated by the muons component of the showers. So to summarize on that, so muons are dominating at ground level. They are going to interact with everything, right? As we speak, muons are traversing you. You have 1 muon per second traversing your body. Or if you prefer to take a smaller surface, let's say your nail, right? Then on your finger, then you're going to have 1 muon per minute, roughly. They are going to traverse you. So you can count. You can do a little mathematical exercise, and you can count how many muons are going then to traverse you per day. But that's a lot, right? So now we are evolved, right? Life on Earth has evolved to be under this constant flux of cosmic radiation, and cosmic rays are not the dominant also source of radiation. We have radioactivity coming from the soil, right? We have radon. We should care about this. And so this is summarizing a bit. So you have the radiation exposure. So this is what I'm going to talk about. If you have a solar storm, right, you know that you can have power surges, or that the communication are actually going to be disrupted, right? You heard about that. So this is also because of cosmic rays. Satellite communications, actually where we are and sending, a mission, right, in space. Usually we have 4 computers that are actually calculating the same thing, just because if a cosmic ray interact with the chip of the computer, it can change a bit from 0 to 1, and then your calculation is not going to be accurate, right? And that can mess up with the systems, and you don't want that, obviously. So this is why we have 4 computers that are actually doing the same operations, and this is all because of cosmic rays. So what I'm interested in is to understand if there is a possible connection between this cosmic radiation and the emergence of life on Earth. Okay, so it's a disclaimer. I'm an astrophysicist, not a biologist. So I started to study the origin of life theory most recently, like 5 years ago. And there are basically 2 schools. You have more like a biology-oriented school, where you actually try to find out what was our last universal common ancestor, or LUCA. And so this is the translation. And it's basically what you are looking for is that you are looking at how life evolved on Earth, and you are trying to see which species, right, have the same origin, and you basically look at how life evolved, and to understand evolution, basically. And you have a more chemistry-oriented approach, which is so this was like from the top to the bottom, let's say, but you have also a bottom-up approach, which is you're trying to understand how from very simple molecule you can build complexity, and then you can build polymers, which are a long chain of molecules, right? Because life is using polymers, nucleic acid, RNA, DNA, or proteins, right? Polypeptides. So the poly, because it's a polymer, it's a long chain, right, of monomers. And we actually don't really understand the polymerization processes, but we know that we need, life is based on polymers. So we need to understand this. And then there will be a capture into this vesicle, and then you somehow turn life on, right? It will start to self-replicate, and it will start to perform biological functions. So you have here somewhere a transition between chemistry to biology that, of course, we don't understand, right? And we don't even have a definition of life, right? If you take 10 biologists together and you ask them, what is life? You're going to end up with 10 different answers. So, but this is what we're actually trying to do, right? We're trying to understand how complexity was built. So when I say we, I say a general we. What I'm interested more precisely is, as an astrophysicist, I would like to understand if these conditions for the emergence of life are generic, and at which stage the environmental factor is important, and at which stage the cosmic rays could have a very important role. So this is what I'm going to tell you about. Let me just check the time. Okay. So of course, if we separate this, so to answer this question, I mean the first, if we take the biology, right, when we know that we are dealing with living organisms, we know that they need to adapt to their environment. So the evolution and what we see around us is going to be unique to our planet, right? And so from an astrophysicist point of view, we know, I mean, that our planet is unique. So even if there are like generic physics, right, in the formation of a planet, its evolution is going to be very different. For example, even the moon, I mean, if you take the 4 moons of Jupiter, they were born at the same moment in a very precise place of the solar system. And if you look at them, they're all different. So for Earth, we're just starting to understand how unique it is. And so there is this also hypothesis, which is called the giant impact hypothesis for the formation actually of the moon. So there was a large impact, right? And between what is now the moon, but it was a larger body and the prebiotic Earth, and then you had the loss of atmosphere. You started to I mean, the heat started the plate tectonic, and then the moon was formed. And actually, some of it has a similar composition to the Earth. So this is why this scenario fits well. And then something which is amazing is that we have this moon, and this moon is actually stabilizing our climate. So if we didn't have this moon, we didn't have our moon, the axis of the Earth would be moving chaotically, and then we will not have a climate which would allow like conditions to allow life to evolve. So as you can see, so this is actually quite unique. But I'm not interested so much in this, but this is very important. What I'm interested is what I call transbiotic, because I don't really have a word for this. It's between prebiotic and when life form, let's say. So all these processes that we need to start life, which are the polymerization processes, and the question here, and it's not answer, is, are those processes unique to Earth? So for the origin of life, there are different hypotheses. So one school is actually saying that life started in little ponds near volcanoes, so little pockets of water. And so these are called also hot springs. And the earliest sign of microbial life on land was found actually in hot springs deposits on Earth, so 3.48 billion years old. And if you look at Mars, and I could have shown you this and ask you which one is Mars and which one is the Earth, because they are so similar, we actually see that there are features on Mars that are comparable size as on Earth, and these are extant hot springs, and we don't really know if they were ever active, right? Mars lost its atmosphere very early on, and so the evolution of this planet was quite different then, and we know. So there are like two questions. I mean, we know it's the surface is not habitable because of the loss of its atmosphere, and also because we wouldn't be protected against cosmic radiation. But it's also possible that there was some life that started and is now developing underground. I mean, that's an hypothesis that cannot be totally disregarded. So for the origin of life, you can actually see that there are like environment on Mars that if Mars would have had the same story, right, they could have turned on to be environment when life could have formed. So for the process itself, so why hot springs are actually important. So there is well-known, so this is David Dimmer. He's a biologist and he's also my colleague, and he has a well-known theory on the origin of life, which is called the wet-dry cycles, because if you are near a hot spring, actually you have a succession of of wet and dry conditions, because here you're going to have the water that is going to come, and it's very hot, and sometimes it's at this interface, right, between the land and the water. You can have succession of wet and dry cycle, which is illustrated here. And he showed that actually in laboratory, this condition allow polymerization. And what we mean by that is that when you take simple molecules, actually, so what we call monomers, then this succession of wet and dry cycles allow them to attach to each other and basically polymerize. And he showed that you can get long chain of monomers, which is actually an important factor, right? Because you need to understand how the first polymers, biopolymers, were formed. So that's a good environment. You have another school that, I mean, we don't know, right? So you have a lot of different hypotheses, but others think that life actually appeared first in the deep ocean and near hydrothermal vents. And so we don't know, but if you ask, is it possible to have hydrothermal vents elsewhere in the solar system? The answer is yes, it is possible, and we're actually trying to understand, to design missions that will maybe tell us if chemistry that occurs in the hydrothermal vents on Earth would be similar in other bodies. So the two bodies that have like a chance to have this environment are Enceladus, which is the moon, one of the moon of Saturn, and Europa, which is a moon of Jupiter. And this is a picture taken by the Cassini mission when it flew near Enceladus. And you can see that there are like water plumes that are ejected from its surface. And you have the illustration here. And when you had the flyby of this space missions, actually detected organics in these water plumes. So we are thinking of actually going back there. I mean, the mission is not accepted yet. There is another mission, Europa Clipper. Maybe you've heard of this. So basically, we want to understand if, since these two moons may harbor these oceans, and you may have as well in the bottom of these oceans the same hydrothermal vents as we have on Earth. The question is, what is the chemistry there? Because this is important to understand also if life could have formed elsewhere. Maybe we will find dolphins, who knows? So anyway, so now I'm going to the prebiotic. So this is really, I mean, just molecules that could be found everywhere, but are building blocks, right, of this polymers, right? So these more complex molecules. And so these are generic, right? So you can find them in the interstellar medium. You can find them on asteroids. There were missions that came back with samples, and we see that we have actually the building block of life found in asteroids. So these are pretty generic. So I'm just going to define what we mean by these building blocks, right? So you have here two molecules, two polymers. On the left, you have DNA, double-stranded DNA. So you have here the sugar phosphate backbone, right? I mean, it's helical. And here you have the bases, right? That is like we have 4 different bases. I guess you all know this, A, T, C, G, and the succession of this basis is like the genetic code. So we want this molecule to be stable, right? Because it's the guarantor of the genetic information. So you want it to be stable to be able to transmit this information from one generation to the next. If it was a fragile molecule, right, it would not be able to perform this very function, right? It was meant to be performing. And on the right-hand side, so the DNA bases are coding for proteins, And on the right-hand side, you see this is what we call alpha helix. So this is just a protein, and it's made of amino acids. So the building block of life, so these polymers are a succession of what we call nucleotide in the case of DNA or RNA. And one nucleotide is a base here, attached to a sugar, attached to a phosphate. So this is in blue, is the sugar phosphate backbone again. And for proteins, it is a succession of monomers, which are amino acids. So it's basically a carbon atom attached to 4 different groups. And these groups are always the same for all amino acids, but what is different is this R. So this is what is changing, which we call the radical. But what is important is that you always have these same building blocks in proteins and in nucleic acids. And these molecules are what we call chiral. So chiral is a word that comes from the Greek for hands. I don't know if you see me on the screen, but basically they are coming in two mirror images of one another. So you have a left-handed version and a right-handed version. So if I were to put a mirror here, I could have the perfect mirror image of that molecule. And so they would not be superimposable, like exactly the same way as your hands are not superimposable. So you have a left-handed amino acid and a right-handed amino acid. And here is the same for the sugar, which is in the backbone of DNA or RNA. This is what it's called D-ribose, D for dextro. It's right-handed. And DNA, life for some reason choose to use only one-handedness, only one chirality. And that's a big mystery because these are mirror image molecules. So from a chemical point of view, their energetics, etc., they are equivalent. But for life, they aren't. And if you stick a single left-handed sugar, so the wrong-handedness, in a backbone of DNA, it's going to destabilize the molecule. So you don't want that again, because this is again the guarantor of the genetic information. So it could not perform its biological function. It has to be 100% made of 100% right-handed sugar. So that's very important. Another thing which I want to say is that right-handed or left-handed are human conventions. It's like chemistry conventions. We could have called them the other way. So what is important here is just to say that life choose one set of chiral molecule and not their mirror images to perform. And that's a mystery. So life is homochiral. So to illustrate this better, I can show you just, so this is the RNA molecule. So this is seen from the top. Before it was seen from the side. So this is RNA again. So you have here the sugar phosphate backbone and the bases, and it's going like a staircase. And this is what exists in our, living world. So all living organisms are based on right-handed sugars. And this would be the mirror world, right, for life. And this does not exist. We don't have life based on left-handed sugars and left-handed helical DNA. So this is actually a very strong feature, which would be, for me, part of the definition of life, because life is homochiral. If we look somewhere and we find excess of chiral molecules, that could be a good indication that something is living there. But just because, of course, this would be based on the fact that on Earth, life as we know it is homochiral. Okay, so of course we try to understand how to make these building blocks, right? So there is this very well-known experiment which is called the Miller-Urey experiment, which was done in the 50s, so trying to mimic the prebiotic Earth. And you have here, so you have here a prebiotic atmosphere made of water, methane, and basically primitive atmosphere. And then what you can see here is like a source of energy to trigger chemistry, right? So to mimic actually lightning. And so it's an electrical spark. And then this is like a circuit. So you basically have the atmospheric circuit, your heating sources. So you have evaporation and then recondensation of water, and you have the water cycle. And that experiment shows that you can actually produce organic molecules that are a building block of life. The thing is that in this experiment here, so we produce some of the amino acids that we see in proteins, but of course you get 50% of left-handed and 50% of right-handed because they're chemically equivalent. So then you have this prebiotic soup, right? When you have some of the building blocks of life. The question is, how do you make them to be all left or all right? Or is it that this homochirality occurred later after the polymerization process, right? We don't know. And then it's maybe the result of some pressure, environmental pressure. And so this is actually what I'm interested in. So what broke the biological mirror? So I think you can hear my accent. I'm French, so I'm very proud to show you the contribution of wine to scientific knowledge. So if you have a good wine and you sometimes you can see these crystals here. So this is on a cork, but you can also sometimes see them in your glass. And this is called tartaric acid. So that was studied by Pasteur. And these are little crystals. And Pasteur had two types of tartaric acid. He has one type which was natural, so the one you can find in wine. And he has one which was man-made, right, in laboratory, because we can also make tartaric acid. And what he saw is that the one that was man-made, there was actually two types of crystals, which were mirror images of one another, and this is his own drawing. So this is a pair of tartaric acid crystals, and he separated them with a tweezer, and then he studied the natural one, and he actually saw that the natural one have only one type of crystals. So he was the first one to see that actually life has a handedness, right? Only one type of crystals, which I could here plus. So this is the same basically as right-handed here. There are different chemical definitions, but this was the one that was actually identical to the one. So this is one found by Shields, who was actually studying wine, and the other one was never found in any biological sample. So then he said, and that was in 1848, he said, okay, you don't have to read this. What is important is what I put here in the circle is what he said is that if the molecules of life are asymmetric, it must be due to some to the existence of some asymmetric cosmic force. Like it's in the physics, right, that there is some asymmetry. And that was written in 1848. And this is quite remarkable because it's like an anticipation of what was actually discovered a century later. So we have 4 different forces in physics, but there is one that actually is at play in radioactivity and radioactive decay. And this is called the weak interaction. And it was shown in the late 50s that actually the weak interaction is not symmetric in the mirror. So this was shown by Madame Wu here, and she didn't get the Nobel Prize for this, unfortunately, but she actually was the one to show to demonstrate experimentally that the weak interaction violates parity. So this is shown, so this is maybe a bit complicated, but basically she was studying the disintegration of cobalt-60, so the radioactive decay of cobalt. And in this decay, it decays into two bodies. One of them is an electron, and one of them is an antineutrino. And what happens is that neutrinos and antineutrinos are chiral, truly, like your hands. In our world, in our universe, we only have left-handed neutrinos and right-handed antineutrinos. We don't have the mirror image disintegration. So this, well, she showed this by actually putting these atoms in a magnetic field, and there was a preferential direction of the electrons after this photodisintegration because of their spin. So this is something I have to say because it's important for the following. But when you have a photodisintegration and one of the particles that is created is a neutrino or an antineutrino, because it's chiral, the electrons or the positrons that are created are going to be what we call spin polarized, meaning that they will have their spin, which will be preferentially aligned with their velocity vector. We call this spin polarization. So this is why they are going to be preferentially emitted in one direction. So why is it important, all this? And I'm coming back now to cosmic radiation, is that when we create the muons that are irradiating us all the time, they come from a weak decay. And because they come from a weak decay, they are also spin polarized. So since they are spin polarized, they are like little magnets, and their north and south will be always in the same, let's say, aligned the same way with their velocity. And what we showed, and this is in white, so it's only very technical, but this is to show you a bit what I was.
Do you
Yeah?
have 5 minutes? Do you have?
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm finishing. It's soon it's going to be done. I mean, I only have like, I think 3 more slides. So what we try to calculate is the interaction between the spin polarized muons that are irradiating us all the time and molecule of DNA to see if there would be a preferential destruction of right-handed molecule versus left-handed one. So basically, we would like to understand, because I understand this is complicated, but what is important here is that are the muons that are irradiating us all the time, because they are spin polarized, acting like a chiral evolutionary pressure. And since you have, of course, self-replication processes, right, of these polymers, in our cell, very rapidly, you have a lot of molecules that are produced. You have exponential growth. So if you make a very small difference between the growth rate of left-handed and right-handed molecules during polymerization or self-replication, then you can reach homochirality, actually. And on December 20, we are going to actually perform the experiment because that, of course, is just a theoretical calculation. And we don't know really how spin polarized muons interact with polymers because no one actually did the experiment. We are usually using electrons to, for example, on food, right? We irradiate food to get rid of bacteria, to sterilize, right? Or in medical, like when you do your X-ray, these are photons. So we don't really have like data on how muons are interacting with biological systems, while this is this is our dominant radiation dose at ground level is from muons. So now in the, I think 3 minutes I have left, I'm talking about again, I'm going back to the astrophysical point of view. So we have a given flux of cosmic rays right now, but as the sun is traveling right in the disk of our galaxy, is going to encounter different environment, and sometimes is going to get closer to stellar associations. And actually now we are in the center of what we call the local bubble. So you can see illustration here. And the sun entered this local bubble, which was made by approximately 15 supernovae explosions 6 million years, 5 to 6 million years ago. And so these supernova explosions are triggering the formation of new stars that are then going to evolve, and the massive ones can also turn supernovae. So one of the questions, since supernovae are natural cosmic ray accelerators because they have these shock waves, they're going to accelerate, so the particles are going to bounce back and forth, and you're going to have cosmic rays of higher energy than the ones that we get from the sun. And so this is my second last slide. So it was just to show you that when you have a supernova event, which could occur close to the Earth, you can actually elevate the radiation doses by several order of magnitude. So right now, as we speak, our cosmic ray radiation dose is around 0.1 milligram per year. I'm taking the biological definition. But if you have a nearby supernova, you can actually increase it by even a factor of 1,000 during 100,000 years. And we don't know what the effect would be. So, and since there are a lot of uncertainty, this is just what we submitted. We just don't really know. So it's very important to be better able to constrain our local environment to understand the role of cosmic radiation in the origin and evolution of life. So this is a little summary. I hope I convinced you that cosmic rays are important when we consider evolution of life. In the definition of habitability, there are no concern for cosmic rays, right? We are looking at zones where we can actually have liquid water, but of course, something would be habitable, right, if life can survive. So cosmic rays, if you have too much cosmic rays, too many, they can sterilize a planetary surface. But what is interesting is that if usually we are not close to such catastrophic events as supernova, and they are a bit, I mean, we know now the distances of the stellar associations of the local bubble I showed you. So we are trying to infer this elevated doses of cosmic radiation. And we know that they must have induced more mutations. So what we are trying to understand is at which level of mutations, right, the radiation could be seen as a friend or a foe. And the final, I mean, this should be really a question mark, right? But this is what is keeping me awake at night, is the muons that have this little magnetic property, right, with their what we call spin polarization. Can they actually interact differently with left-handed and right-handed molecules, which could maybe trigger the emergence of homochirality, which is a unique feature of life. Okay, I'm done. Thank you so much. And I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm
Thank you
happy
very
to.
much. We have time only for one question. Tenemos tiempo solo para una pregunta. Only one question. Yes. Maybe somebody. Acá el niño. ¿No?
Thank you very much. I had a question. I've heard that cosmic rays interact with semiconductors, and that's an
Can you repeat the question? Because I heard that you asked about semiconductors, but I didn't hear precisely the question. So someone can repeat, someone closer to the microphone?
Okay, I wanted to know if the interaction with semiconductors, the interaction between cosmic rays and semiconductors, is similar to the interaction between muons and organic
Oh,
molecules.
so that's very, yeah, I'm looking into this. So that's very interesting because I have, so I will be fast. I have a backup slide on this. There is a property for the biological molecules like DNA, right? When they are helical, actually, they can spin filter. So this is called the chiral-induced spin selectivity. It was discovered in 1999, and there is no theory right now for this. So this is something which is experimentally observed, but there is no theory to explain all the, experimental observation, right? So when you have spin polarized electrons of opposite spin polarization, we can see that DNA will actually filter one spin polarization, and at the end, you're only getting one spin polarization, 90%, right? So this is a very strong effect. And you can see this in what they call chiral material, right? So they are trying to make this chiral material, so it's not biological polymers, but it's more like crystals, right? And they see that you actually can have the same effect. So they are using this to try to understand what we see in biology. So there is a huge industry right now on this chiral optic, effects, trying to understand what happened. So they want to have this control switch. So whether they can interact with spin polarized electron or circularly polarized light. If you have a chiral material, like if you design one, it's going to be optically active. So meaning that it will going to interact differently with circularly polarized light of opposite helicity, and also differently with spin polarized electrons. So that could have like very important implication for, like when you want to do quantum information device or things like this, but that's not my field. So I know that like this is right now a large field of research, and it's interesting because they don't really consider muons. So we don't really know for muons if they could also be filtered, right, preferentially with their spin by polymers. So this is why we are trying to push to do these experiments I was talking about, to actually irradiate biological polymers with muons and just see what happens.
Thank you very much. Yes. Ok, vamos a dar seguimiento a nuestro evento. Tenemos solo 1 minuto, 2, nada más en lo que se acomoda nuestros siguientes ponentes. Sí, vamos a dar unos cuantos minutitos, máximo 5, no se nos vayan, nada más en lo que se acomodan, ¿va? Para no atrasarnos mucho con el programa. En lo que se estiran.